Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Thanks, Andy. I appreciate it, man. Appreciate you having me.
Everyone, thanks for tuning in today. Fulfillment Project. Today we got Jeff Wickersham on the show. Jeff spent 10 years at American Express before walking away 8 years ago to build his own coaching business. Today, he runs the organization he founded, the Warrior Dad Experience, where he's on a mission to help 1 million dads become better versions of themselves and impact 2 million kids by 2053. His path here was certainly not easy. I think we can all relate to our personal paths. He lost his mom to breast cancer and went through his own battles with addiction. Out of that came the Morning Fire Method, a daily discipline framework, and then his book, Rise, Fight, Love, Repeat. I love that title. He's also completed the David Goggins 4x4x48 challenge, 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 straight hours. That I get tired just reading that sentence. And he's run multi-year streaks of daily meditation and cold exposure. He's a dad of 2 boys himself, which I really relate with my boys 2 and 4. And everything he teaches, which I love, you get this vibe from him when you see him online. It comes from trying to lead his own family well before ever trying to teach anyone else. You guys have all tasted that stuff. Someone without kids trying to give parenting advice doesn't work. And that's exactly the type of guy I dig and the type of person I want on this show. Meaningful work, faith, family, and living on purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, Jeff.
Yeah. Let's go,
Welcome
man.
to the show, man.
No, I'm pumped and excited to be here. Excited to provide some value for your audience.
We're stoked you're here. So I got to start with the question. You're essentially an influencer now. Is that fair? How would you describe yourself at a dinner party?
A guide. I wouldn't say an influencer. I'd say a guide helping dads crush life personally, professionally, step into the best version of themselves, go away from the common path that most men are going down. I would say a guide. I think that's much more appropriate.
I love that because there's inherent purpose there. We talk a lot on this show about finding purpose in your work. Some people don't have the luxury of starting their own thing like you did. So a lot of times it's like, how do we find purpose at the office, in the cubicle, where we are, where our feet are? How do we be more present? But what was it for you, Jeff, that got you out of that cubicle at Amex and into this life?
I mean, I'll start with my mom passing away from breast cancer. It'll be 12 years ago in December, watching the woman that brought you into this world take her last breath in front of you. I like to say the fragility of life 2x4 smacked me clean upside the head. And it was like, okay, we get one trip in this thing called life. What kind of dent, what kind of impact do you want to have? And that question smacked me right in the face. I wasn't doing the things I should do. And I still, Andy, remember the last deep conversation I had with my late mother. I was taking her UPenn on a radiation treatment. She was about ready to go on hospice care. So we kind of knew the end was near. I asked her how she was doing. She told me she was scared she'd be forgotten. And that was something that I didn't know it then, but like Steve Jobs, right? You got to have faith that the dots connect looking backwards.
Yeah.
I think proverbial baton was passed between her and me. And I told her, I said, your positivity and hope is going to live through me. It's going to live through, my 2 sons, her two grandkids. So that was a key piece. And then looking back, I mean, when she passed, I was tested right after that. So she passed on a Sunday evening. We got the secondhand crew of the funeral home out, and I'm the oldest of 3. I kind of went up as they were preparing, her body to go, and I saw concern in their faces, and I asked them what was going on, and these guys were in their 70s. They said, we don't know if we can carry her down the steps. And I said, I got her. I said, let me ask my brother. And, my brother and I carried my mom down in that dreaded black bag down the steps. And that was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do. But I look back and pull strength from it now that if I can do that, I can continue doing the things I need to do on a daily basis. So that was really the leaping off point. And then about 9 months later, I was told by Amex that I live outside of Philly and I was working virtually for about 10 years. You need to be in the office either in New York or Arizona. My guys were playing sports. I'm like, nope, this isn't happening. So I after a couple months, took my wife out to dinner and said, I'm going to open up my own gym. I'm a former CrossFitter. So it was kind of been in between a CrossFit box, local YMCA. She said, you're freaking crazy. I said, yes, went that path, but I still wasn't doing the things I needed to be doing on a daily basis. And that was but that was the initial leaping off point of my self-discovery, personal development journey and stepping into that best version of myself.
Wow. There's 3 ways I want to go here. One is I just want to acknowledge that most of us have moments in life where there's a fork in the road, and how we respond can change everything. And I think everything we're going to talk about today is you choosing your fork. One way was uproot your family, relocate, and keep doing what you were doing. The other was to take the road less traveled and do what you're doing now, which I can only imagine was extremely scary for you and your family with all the unknowns. And so I want to get into that after, but I don't want to get too far past one point you made, Jeff. Death. Your mom's death helped you open your eyes and become aware that you only get one life. Had you considered that before your mom? Had that ever hit you before?
I mean, it's very challenging to say that I've been, I don't want to say blessed, but I've had the experience, right? I went to University of Delaware my freshman year. My grandfather, who lived in Newark, passed away. I was there. I helped my grandmom learn how to pump gas, learn how to use the ATM machine. And then right after college, I had one of my best friends passed in a motorcycle accident. So I've been around it. I think just watching someone pass and knowing the finality of it, that just was probably the final, nail that I needed to feel, to say, you know what, man, what am I doing with this opportunity that I have in life, and really take some hard, honest looks in the mirror. And it didn't happen overnight, but over time, I started to build that person that, Andy, I always knew deep inside, but I ran from it. I ran from that voice. I numbed it up with alcohol, porn, gambling, social media, you name it, kind of the common thing that guys and men do. But I started to chip away and figure some things out. And that's tremendously helped in my journey.
You were running from that voice. What was the voice saying?
Voice was like, what are you doing? Like, come on, you've got more potential inside. Stop, procrastinating. Stop being scared of what, and live who deep down you are. So, yeah, it was a challenge. And with that, many times when we answer that call to be the best version of ourselves, and I believe every human being has that voice, has that subconscious potential saying, you can be more, do more, have more.
Yeah.
But when you answer that call, guess what happens? You lose connections with people you might have been connected with for many years, because you're not hanging out drinking beers on a Friday night with the buddies rather than staying home with your kids. You're not, talking about gambling or different things because you're going a different path. So it's scary because we're, a social species and we need to be connected. But
yeah,
if you want to, up level your life, you've got to find different circles. And I heard something from an Eagles coach this past week that I thought was very profound. He said, if you look at your circle of people, if nobody's inspiring you and motivating you to be better, it's not a circle, it's a cage. And I thought that was pretty profound. Yep.
Whoa. That's a great picture. We talked a lot on this show of you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Mm-hmm. And I call people on to look around. Who are you surrounding yourself with? And sure as shit, more than not, you are those people. Wow. I'm trying to think of a way, frater memento mori, sticking on the death thing, because I think if you start with the end, you can back plan for everything. So, brother, remember thy death. I had an extreme encounter in college and it changed my whole life. And now death is ever before me. Mm-hmm. And I feel like you wake up different. Every week's a little different. Every month, year. You just treat different because it feels like a gift instead of a task list and stuff you got to get done. Is there anything you've advised people, you've helped people to understand to simulate what you went through in real life? Maybe they don't have a family member that's passed away or a loved one or a friend. Can you simulate that, or is that something you have to experience firsthand?
I mean, experience is gold, but one of the ways I like to frame it up is picture yourself 80, maybe you're blessed to be 90. Heck, I'm going to live to be 110. So that's my target. But you're on your deathbed, and all of a sudden you see this person come in the room, and you're like, who the heck is this person? You're playing through the mental Rolodex. You can't figure out who it is. And you're just stuck. And the person comes over to the side of the bed, leans down and whispers in your ear and says, I'm who you were supposed to be. And that always hits me hard. Like, that's answering that call to be the best version of yourself. That's your potential that you didn't live up to. And with that, all of a sudden it gives a little visual to it. And you're like, I need to get off my ass and I need to do the things I need to know I need to do. So I always love to keep that in mind because the biggest pain is regret later in life. People regret they didn't take the shots. They didn't do the things. They didn't take the chance. So that's kind of how I keep the end in mind and frame it up for people to really think about it.
It's a great framework to think, who could I have been? What would my potential self be saying to me now? Which leads me to I said I had 3 things I wanted to talk about. This is one of the other ones. Hey, everyone. Quick 10-second ask from you. If you're digging the show and you're watching on YouTube, please give it a thumbs up and comment your favorite part. If you're listening on Spotify, please give this show a 5-star rating. On iTunes, please leave a quick review. If you're listening on Substack, please subscribe and join the comments. You may want to subscribe in a few different places. For example, YouTube, you get all of our short content, 60-second to 90-second clips, our segments where we segment out 1 to 6 minute different segments of each episode. And then if you subscribe on the Substack, I summarize the episode in a newsletter. You can read it in a couple minutes. And then a couple days after the episode, I put out a self-reflection guide to help you personalize the content to your life. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Please share it with a friend. You left stability. You left a job. The number one thing when I talk to my friends and people I support and coach is money. I need money. I need insurance. I need security. I need a safety net. I have a lot of responsibility, especially people with a spouse and kids. Mm-hmm. Any insight you can give for people that feel trapped in the cage of their job? They don't feel a strong purpose. They're making the best out of it, but there's not a strong purpose there. But they want out. They have a vision. They just can't see how to get from where they're sitting today to where they want to be.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I would have probably jumped if I wasn't forced kind of out. I always had that in the back of my mind, but it was like, okay, I've got consistent income coming in. I was blessed. My wife's a teacher, so she had benefits. And there was, after I left, 8-9 years ago, I mean, there was 5 good solid years where she was the main breadwinner as I was trying to figure things out. The gym business failed after 3.5 years. I owned it during COVID, started kind of morning fire, did some things, a couple other iterations that didn't work. And it got to a point where 3.5 years ago, she was like, all right, this is enough. I can't do this anymore. Yeah. You got to look for a part-time gig. And I still remember I had an old Dell laptop. The battery was dead. So I always had to have it plugged in. And I was in my kitchen, on my kitchen table on Indeed, looking for part-time consulting gigs. And I must not have plugged the plug fully in, and it died. And I said, that's it. I ain't never fucking going back. And I said, the Warrior Dad is it. I just started it. I said, I'm all in. And that completely changed, but it was challenging. I mean, there were many times I thought to myself, what the hell am I doing? But if I would have started with the system I have developed now, the game would have changed because I'm consistent day in, day out. I'm stacking wins, forward momentum, positive energy, reaching people. Just it's changed the game. So that's a long version of kind of the journey. It had its loops. It had its deep dark times. I mean, I tried to. When the gym business was going down, I tried to gamble my way out of it. Next thing you know, I've got $30,000 on a college football game, and I'm coaching my kids game and I lose, right? And I went into deep debt from that. My wife didn't know it, so I had to dig out from that. So there has definitely been some fires I've gone through to get where I'm at now.
Whoa, what direction do we go in here, Jeff? I guess first, I took a note and we'll go there next, but gambling. I think a lot of people, more than we'd imagine, have hidden secrets from their spouses that are huge, and it keeps them from becoming the fullest of their potential. It creates a chasm that both spouses know is there, but neither of them can put their finger to, or at least both of them can't put their finger on it exactly.
Mm-hmm.
How you clearly just said it in front of tens of thousands of people that'll listen to this show. So how did you get the courage to have the hardest convo with your wife that first time?
I mean, I was tapped out. I was like $100,000 in credit card debt, about, $100K out of my 401k. I went through a service. They were pressuring me. You got to get into this bed. I called my uncle to get some cash, and he's like, don't ever pick up the phone or answer a text or answer an email. And literally, I mean, this was 6 years ago? I didn't even have the courage to call my father. He called him. Right. And I didn't have to breaking the news to her, breaking her heart, and just feeling ashamed, feeling the lowest you could feel. I will say the one thing that got me through it is I have two sons that I said, I gotta figure this out, and I gotta stay in the fight. And I still remember walking up the hill, very similar to, the Indeed story of being on my computer. I walked up the hill in a town near us. We turned right. My dad and I talked in front of my truck, and the bankruptcy attorney said, you can file for bankruptcy. That's going to be 8 to 10 years, going to be a long drawn out process, or you can try and negotiate with the credit card companies and settle down your debt. But that's not very likely. And I told my dad, I said, all right, my back's against the wall. Which way am I going to go? I said, I'm going to fight. And I started fighting with the credit card companies, negotiating down and digging out a little bit. But it was a dark time, but I made it through. I shared it with my boys when, my latest book, The Warrior Dad, I shared it with my boys because that's my opening story in that book. And my oldest just wrote his college essay is about him being that kid on that field during his dad, gambling $30,000 on a game, and how it's taught him resilience and all those pieces, which I'll try not to get choked up about it because it meant the world that he wrote that about me, and he's seen it, and now he's applying it to his life. So, yep.
In some twisted way, Jeff, are you happy you lost that $30,000 bet?
Probably, because it stripped me naked, and I needed to rebuild me piece by piece and actually answer that call to be the best version of myself, right? I think of what would have happened if I had made the money back, saved my business. I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be impacting dads. I wouldn't have written the Warrior Dad book, and now it's out on Audible. So you kind of, as painful as it was, it was all steps in the evolution of me as a human being, as a dad, as a husband, as a leader, and as a man. And I feel so blessed that I am where I'm at right now.
Wow. I have shivers thinking of you on that sideline, glancing down at your phone and just thinking, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that, Jeff. I think
You're welcome.
It's both powerful for you to share your personal story, but I think for other people to have guides who have gone before them. A lot of us need to swallow the tough pill, whatever it is in our life. And it's scary. It's uncomfortable. There's never, ever, ever, ever a good time.
Mm-hmm.
And the only good time is right now. And to hear that someone went before them and, I don't know the word, made a mockery of yourself to your wife, the one who was stood by you through everything, and you had to totally expose yourself. That's a beautiful thing. It's power. It's strength. It's, I feel like there have been several things in my marriage where it either makes your marriage or breaks your marriage. And where would you say you landed?
Yeah, it totally made us stronger. I mean, we celebrated 20 years last month, and my wife wrote me a beautiful note about going through those challenges. Heck, I still have it here. I keep it at my desk as a reminder, right? Of that. So, yes, just grateful she stuck by my side, and maybe she saw that potential I had deep down inside, and maybe she saw it too, that if I stand by him and support him, that he will make it to that other side. And that was one piece, the gambling. And then, geez, 4.5 years ago, I was challenged by a coach. All right, what's another lever that you can pull that you can up level your life? And I said, holy shit, it's alcohol. I said, let me take a year off. And that was 4.5 years ago. I haven't gone back because I'm like, I don't want another off day like I used to have. And I want to set an example for my two boys who were, 13 and 12 at the time. And do I hang out with some of the people I used? No, not as much, because I'm not on that path anymore, and I'm okay with it, right? But it's those type of pieces of, hey, having an honest look in the mirror. And I remember when I told my wife I was going away from alcohol, she's like, I like you better when you don't drink. And I know it's improved our marriage. It's improved my patience, my intentionality, my presence with her, but also with the boys, and just being on each day. And that goes kind of back to, Andy, what we were talking about with my mom passing away. I don't have an off day anymore. Now, do I have days where I'm not at my best? 100%, but there's there's nothing else added in. So an off day, I'm still playing probably at a pretty darn high level.
Yeah, well, and you probably get to recover. Do you feel like you recover a lot quicker from an off? We all wake up on the wrong side of the bed, lethargic, whatever, maybe a little sick, stress coming in at different angles. But do you feel like without these other distractions, your recovery
100%. And I would say those off days, I'm still doing the work, even if it's 50%. I'm 100% at 50, where that's probably higher than most are doing on a good day, because I don't have alcohol, I don't have other things going on that have distracted me, and I'm moving forward.
That's one thing that is so necessary about discipline, is it helps you practice for the day. If you can intentionally put discipline in your life, it helps you prepare for the days when you have to be disciplined against your will, which is why I like a lot of your stuff, being tough, doing the long runs, the cold therapy, because you get to choose that. And it can, some days it's pleasurable, a lot of days it's not. And that's training for the day you wake up and you're not feeling your best, but you still got to turn in great work. So people say trite things, and I've said it too, because I think it's true. I think trite sayings exist for a reason, kind of like stereotypes exist for a reason, because everyone can see them somehow. It's not about the destination, it's about the journey. That should be on like a pillow at Target. It probably is already.
Right.
But like,
probably is.
Your journey's insane, man. It's insane. Your Amex transition, the failed gym during COVID, perfectly bad timing, that had nothing to do with you. The gambling, the alcohol, all that stuff. Do you agree or disagree with that statement? It's not about the destination, it's about the journey.
I 100% agree. I would say the challenge we all face is understanding that and practicing that on a daily basis. There's a great book by Dan Sullivan called he's the founder, strategic coach, the gap versus the gain. And so many of us are in the gap, meaning we're measuring towards an ideal. And if you feel angry, you feel frustrated. Here's the one for me as an entrepreneur. You feel like you should be further along than you are. You're in the gap. Yeah. You're measuring versus an ideal versus looking back. The gain is, we got to measure looking backwards of how far you've come. So, 100% the journey, the fun part is the times where you have to get dirty, grimy, gritty, and resilient and get through, because I've studied a ton of entrepreneurs, and they're like, they get to a certain point and they're like, I missed the build of it. I missed the journey of it. So, yeah. And the other piece is then be where your feet are. And especially as a dad, regardless, wherever your kids are as from an age perspective, science says by age 12, 75% of your time that you'll ever get with them is gone. By age 18, 95% of the time you get with them is gone. Make sense. They're in your house. Once they leave, you only get so much time with them. So
Well, I've never heard that stat before. I'm going to re-listen to that over and over while I'm editing and release this podcast, because with my boys 2 and 4, that hits home. It feels like it's going to be forever, but it's not.
Right. I got 17 and 16-year-olds, senior and junior, starting this, in a week. It doesn't last forever. So you got to lean in, be where your feet are. And there was an office quote that I'm always reminded of. It was like, I wish there was a way to know that these were the good times when they're happening rather than when you've left them. And I think that's a profound thing to think about as well. You're in the good times, whatever you're at, the journey, you're in the good times right now. A step into gratitude, be happy, bring positivity to the world. The world needs more positivity, hope, encouragement, support than ever before. Give it to somebody else. Like just Tuesday, I got my truck. I saw the same kid. He must have been 7, 8 years old, Andy, running in my neighborhood. And I saw him this Tuesday. I was in my truck. This is the second day I saw him. And I gave him a thumbs up. And he saw me.
Yeah, baby.
And he gave a thumbs up. And then, you know what the beautiful piece was? He smiled. Why? Because he knew I acknowledged him giving effort and doing the work. And I'm like, that's how we have a ripple effect out into the world, and we change the world, make a dent in the universe. So, I get pretty fired up about it, as you can tell.
I love that. That Dan Sullivan quote about looking back to measure yourself instead of looking forward has a coach taught me that years ago. Jeff Barefoot, a man I love and owe a lot of success and self-realization to. And that's powerful. I'm going to pick that up 2 days after I release the podcast. I always do a self-reflection guide to help the listeners and readers on my Substack apply this combo to my life. So often you listen to people like you, Jeff. You're so freaking inspirational, and you did the hard work. But it's like, oh, how do I do that in my life? How do I make my thing? How do I cross the bridge for my thing? And so that's what the self-reflection guide is, because all this stuff is like what to do until it becomes how to do. So I'm trying to cover both things with my work here at Fulfillment Project, is have incredible inspirational people on like you that give us a little bit of a framework, or maybe a lot of bit of a framework. But we got to wake up and have the conversation. We got to wake up and go to the gym, do the run, do the cold plunge, have the hard conversation, whatever it is. And that's tough.
It is. I mean, that's why dads come to me and jump into the Warrior Dad, right? Because we've got accountability, and then I break it up down into an easy, repeatable system that you can run daily. And then just think of one thing you're going to do, one place you're going to grow today. Don't think of the whole mountain, just one step. And I think, yes, we live in the greatest time known to man with technology. We got our phones, there's supercomputers in our hands, but so many people are librarians of the mind, meaning they're just taking things in, cataloging it, versus I'd say it's the warrior of the mind, where you're taking action on it. Because if you catalog all day long, you consume, nothing's going to change. You got to take action. You got to understand it's going to be messy, probably going to suck when you start. I still remember, Andy, the first Facebook Live I did when I owned my gym, the hands shaking. I'm like, this is Jeff from, like, it was awful. I sucked, but I was like, that's part of the process. It's part of the journey that you just said. So, taking the daily action, having a daily system that you can operate from, then you're not relying on your feelings or how you slept or what happened the day prior, and you can just execute the system, and that gives you that, that energy, that focus, that presence, and as a byproduct, you get more stuff done, so you get more time back in your day,
and you get to celebrate small wins instead of waiting for the big thing. So many people just wait and wait and wait and wait for the big thing, the pay raise, the car, the house, the retirement, and it's like, you're missing the point, man. There's a lot of small steps every day we get to enjoy. So tell me about the Warrior Dad. Tell me about some of these things, because being a dad, I can speak from experience, really tough. Being a mom, frankly, probably even harder. I'm so grateful. This might be a hot take. When I think about everything women have to do, specifically my wife, I think, thank God I was born a man. I mean, thank goodness. Nevertheless, being a dad is hard, Jeff. How do you help guys?
Yeah, I mean, so I'll give you two things. I'll give you the system that we operate from. Before that, though, I'll say one of the mindset kind of mantras, methodologies that the Warrior Dad has is answer every bid. answer every bid from your kids. When they ask you to do something, I don't care what it is. Unless you're on a podcast like this, or you're on a call for work, the email can wait. The DM can wait. The text message can wait. They are asking for your attention. That's how they see love. Answer the bid. And that's so important, because the more you do that, then that whole adage of wait until they're teenagers is complete bullshit. If you're pouring into your kids, like my guys still ask me to do things at 17 and 16. Why? Because I've said yes every single time. And then after we have that cool moment, I'll give them a hug and say, thanks for asking me. I really enjoyed myself. So I reinforce them to ask again. So that would be number one, kind of a tactical strategy that I just wish every dad would deploy in their lives. And then the second one, where we start, is the bookends. What do you do at the end of the day? And then what do you do when you first wake up? And I like to say, give me 1% of your day when you wake up. 14 minutes and 24 seconds is 1% of your day. In that first 15 minutes, stack 7 wins. Drinking water, moving the body, meditate, declare who you're going to be in that day. So give your subconscious mind direction. Here's who I am. Like, I'm driven. I'm a beast. Like, just talk yourself up. Practice gratitude. Make love deposits to your wife and kiddos, and then learn something new. When you stack 7 wins in 15 minutes, you feel your state changes. You feel like, oh my gosh, like, who else is doing this crap? Nobody is. And as a byproduct, you're focused, you're energetic. Kids come down the steps, and you're ready to go. And that's playing offense, versus how do many people, they go to their phone right away. They're checking text message, emails. They're going down that negative spiral. Maybe they're hitting the snooze button 3 times and they lose, 8 minutes, 24 minutes of shitty sleep that doesn't add anything. It's basically you're saying, my snooze button's more important than my life. Playing defense on your heels all day long, and no wonder why you flop on the couch and you're exhausted, stressed, and overwhelmed. You got to change the game. You got to play attack, play offense, play that type of mentality. So answer every bid, have that system. I've done that system. I think today was 3,155 straight days. Now I modify it at times if I'm traveling, but I always get at least 3 wins: water, movement, meditation. I've done that for nearly almost 9 years, right? I'm a couple months away from 9 years.
Water, movement, meditation, first 15 minutes of the day. I'm trying to think of a situation where someone could resist that and say, Jeff, I just can't.
You
Have you ever met anyone that couldn't do it?
Yeah. I mean, I have guys that are like, I couldn't do it. I said, bullshit. You can drink a glass of water, do 10 jumping jacks, and breathe once. That's that's still a win. Like, stop with the perfection crap. Just keep the momentum going. Do the things that, I was hungover, today. I don't care. What's the average guy going to do? He's not going to do crap. So do the other. Do the uncommon path. Take so no, I think even if you're on a deserted island, hopefully you got water. You could drink some water, do 10 jumping jacks, breathe once, and you'll be moving forward.
Perfection crap. What do you mean? Where do you see guys get caught up with
if they're not going to do the full 7, then it doesn't count. And I'm like, says who? Right? Like, no. I mean, if your kids woke you up at 4:00 because you got a 2 and a 4-year-old and one's sick, drink a glass of water, do 10 air squats while you're holding your 2-year-old, and breathe once, tell them about it, and that still counts. So I think that really releases the pressure valve for guys, because they feel like they have to be perfect. You've heard my story. I'm far from perfect. There isn't a perfect human being out there. There just isn't. You're not the first. So just keep that momentum moving, keep that progress moving, because progress equals happiness. That journey is happiness. And if you're making progress, then that's a good thing. I would also say, of a 30-day month, you're going to have 3 or 4 days where you're just not at your best. That again, release that pressure valve. Like, I have a day where I'm not at my best. I had one last Thursday. Okay. Chalk it up. I don't beat myself up. I say, that's just one of those days, and I bounce off the dip. The next day I'm on fire and really focused and going forward. And that's how we continue to grow, get better. And even the better piece is then in the Warrior Dad, we learn to take action, but then we take action to teach our kids.
Yeah.
All these things, like planting seeds for future growth. My kids hear it. I talk about stuff. I'm sharing stuff with them. Dads that jump in do the same thing. Some dads are sharing my videos with their kids, right? Like, so we're all in this kind of growth journey together, and that's pretty darn exciting.
Your idea of exposing yourself in a way to your kids, sharing with your kids, bringing them into the mess of your life, the imperfection of your life. Why not show them your perfect image? Wouldn't that be better modeling?
No, because they're going to face it in their lives, their imperfection. And what would happen is they'd be like, holy shit, what's wrong with me? Something's broken in me, where they're like, okay, my dad faced this. I can get through it. I've got challenges, and I tell them that same thing. So I think being vulnerable, being open, it creates these bonds that are deep, and then we can truly be their guide and help them in their journey. And hopefully they pull from one of my stories later in life when they're facing something, rather than thinking, well, my dad was perfect. They don't ask for help, and they stay closed off, and they think they're the only one that is screwed up or made some temporary mistakes.
Yeah. Did you get that from your dad? You talked about your dad earlier in the episode.
Not really. I mean, I think, that generation, the baby boomer generation, was raised by a generation that was in World War II and in the Great Depression. So I think, no, not as much. We didn't have those deep conversations. There was a little bit, but I feel like as dads, we have the ability to change the narrative and be that one dad that changes a family tree forever. And I had a fantastic dad. He's still around. He just turned 80 yesterday. Positive as heck. But we didn't have these conversations. So I had to figure it out on my own. That's why it was so fucking messy for me. I didn't have a playbook, where now I have a playbook, and I talk to the guys about it, and we share, and doesn't mean they're not going to mess up. I know they probably will at times, but at least they'll be more resilient, and they'll be able to bounce back and be so far ahead of the game from that perspective.
Yeah. And that gets back to your perfection crap, where so many people let perfection be the enemy of the really good, and the really good compounds over a lifetime in magnificent ways. But if you're always just shooting for perfection, you're going to miss. And then you're going to die, be on your deathbed, and think, I missed it.
Not only would you not will you miss, I would say most likely you'll never start, because you'll be like, I'm not going to hit that perfection. So why even go after it at this point? So that would be even worse, I would think.
Whoa. Where do we go from here, Jeff?
I mean, I would say the other piece is small things matter. The slight changes, tweaks. I heard something profound on a podcast yesterday about John D. Rockefeller and his attention to detail. And I guess in the oil drums way back in the day, they used to put 40 drops of solder on the drums. And he said, well, why don't we do 38? We can save 2. Well, they did 38 drops, and the drums leaked. So he said, all right, go 39. They did 39, just one drop. In that single year, it saved his company $2,500. That doubled the next year, tripled the next year. And then it was multiple $100,000 of savings. And it was just one drop. That's the power of the small, simple, repeatable things that we can do in our lives. And the challenge is, it's not the bat flip, grand slam, walk-off home run that we're fed by society. It's not sexy to meditate every single day and just do the same crap. But the Jordans, the Bezos, the high-level players, they figure out what works, and then they do it for decades of their lives. And I think that's, so profound, is just hit singles. Make sure you're doing the work. Make sure you're setting that example for your kids. And if you didn't have a great dad, or there's some family trauma, you have the ability to cut that chain that's holding you back. And that, I feel like, is so important for that next generation, that if you can have the courage to face the mirror and fix your own stuff, very similar to my journey, you can then set up that next generation for future success and a roadmap.
Outward facing is what I heard a lot there, reading between the lines of what you said, where setting up the future generation. It's not just about you. It's not a selfish pursuit, although you get a lot out of it, but it's thinking about the other. Did I misinterpret?
No, that's 100%. And I think that gives great energy, enthusiasm, like power to what you're going to do. It's not only about you. It's about your kids didn't choose to come into this life. You chose to have kids. So figure your shit out or get around guys that are playing at a different level. And then your wife's going to see it. Your kids are going to see it. They're going to look at you differently and they're going to be like, who the hell is, I mean, we laugh in my house, old Jeff versus new Jeff all the time. Right. And you got to be willing to kill the son of a gun you used to be in order to step into a new version of yourself and be that best version of yourself.
I've never heard that before put like that. You have to kill the old version of yourself. It's so visual and graphic and almost like I felt bad saying it, but it's true. If you want to be the person you want to be, you got to kill the old person.
Yeah, 100%.
And for each of us, that looks different, which is why you can get motivated by Jeff, but you got your own thing. You got to do it. Mm-hmm. You got to sit down and do the hard work. No one else is going to do it for you. Everyone's got an idea, a dream, a hope. And they're just waiting for it to come around. And it's like, it ain't coming unless you make it come. And then when you try, your gym's going to fail. Your first organization's going to, you got to pound it. People are going to be telling you it's time to stop.
100%.
And maybe it is.
Yeah, 100%. And sometimes it is, right? But having that mindset, and the other piece I like to say is you are the hero in your own journey. Like this is your movie. You're in it. Be that hero. And I heard a Joe Rogan line once and he said, crazy and greatness are next door neighbors and they borrow each other's sugar. So when anybody calls me crazy, I'm like, hell yeah, I'm right on that line.
I'm on the right track.
Right? I'm right on that line of it was a couple weeks ago and it was like 97 degrees out, humidity, like heat index 105. My wife called me at like 3:30 in the afternoon, pitch sun, right? She's like, what the hell is that sound? I'm like, I'm running. She's like, you're doing what? She's like, you're fucking crazy. I said, yes, I am. Nobody else is out here and I'm doing the work. I'm growing intentionally by putting myself through things that, raise my game physically, but also more importantly, raise my game mentally.
Do you have one crazy transformation story from this is someone else I've worked with and this is what I've seen transform you can share with the audience?
Yeah, I would probably say, guy that actually wrote the foreword to my book, Alex Laperouse, dad of 4. When he jumped into the Warrior Dad, he was in class 2, and his kids were under the age of 8. And he had 2 examples that really stood out to me that he shared in the book as well. One, his wife picked up his oldest son, I think he was 6 at the time, from school. And the teacher said, ma'am, your son is the greatest leader I've seen in my 30 years of teaching. And Alex, it was because he was seeing me lead intentionally, seeing me do the things, share this stuff with him. So that would be like the one example. And then the second example is his daughter. The teacher in her school fainted and the whole class ran to the office except for one person, his daughter. And she stayed with the teacher and held her hand. And he asked her why. And she said, because somebody needed to comfort her and make sure she was all right. So it's that type of intentional leadership. So those would be 2 short stories that stand out.
And then just to close off this conversation, Jeff, for the audience, the dads listening, the people that aren't dads, but they're going to share this episode with a dad that needs to hear it. What's one thing they need to hear? If you could tell every dad in the world a couple sentences, what would it be?
You only get one trip in this thing called life. So get off the couch, start taking action, start intentionally pouring into your kids, because you'll be like me one day having a soon to be senior and junior, and you're going to be like, wow, I can't believe we're already here. And have the courage to create your path, right? When you see the forest and you see the well-worn path, choose the darkest path and say, I'm just going to go my way. Cause I'm pretty sure that voice, that intuition that speaks to you in the dark that you just can't numb up will help you guide you on that path. And if you need help, have the courage to ask for help and have the courage to, get a guide to help you through that process, because through brotherhood and through loving and supporting each other, man, we can do amazing things.
Amen. Men need men. Iron sharpens iron.
100%. And I had a guy in one of my groups who's like, I don't want to share my yearly goals. And I said to him, why? He goes, because anytime I tell somebody, they're like, why would you think that big? And I'm like, well, this isn't that group. Share them because we love, support you, and we're going to try and help you get there.
Did he get?
He's working towards them, but he's expressing them now, right?
Yes. Jeff, I'm going to put the link to your website, to your book in the show notes for anyone that wants to learn more, read more. I certainly do. I want to look into joining one of these classes. Where else can we find you? What else do I need to drop in the show notes for people who are curious?
I think that's great, right? The warriordad.com website, the book, The Warrior Dad's out on Amazon. I just released it on Audible last week.
I'm going to get the Audible version.
So I
12 credits.
I self-narrated it, and it wasn't easy. So it's my voice. My wife, Amazon had just deployed like 30 AI voices. I was like, oh, maybe I could do this. My wife's like, you need to write it or read it. And I was like, her intuition's pretty good. So I did. I narrated myself.
How long did it take you?
It was 4 sessions of about 3.5 hours. So it was some work.
Did you have tea? Like, how do you read for that long and keep your voice sounding good?
I mean, I had water and stuff, but yeah, it was an endeavor. So I'm proud of it for sure.
Yeah, I'm thinking about reading books to my boys at night for 20, 30 minutes before bed. And sometimes that gets tiring. My throat gets a little raspy. So
there you go. You can use that as fuel next time you feel that rasp. You'd be like, I'm pushing through, baby.
Jeff, thanks so much for coming on Fulfillment Project. Everyone, if you got something out of today, please like, subscribe, share it with a friend, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much, Jeff.
Thanks, Andy.